Right, so my task today, hopefully if the weather holds out, is to change the rear springs on the Civic 2.2CDTI 2007, very common model. They haven't snapped. It's just that they're kind of rusty, and they've been rusty for a long time, and I just don't know if they're going to give up sooner or later. I'm not sure, so I'm changing them as like a precaution kind of thing. And these ones are from GSF, motoring supplier, GSF, and the UK kind of brand. And these particular springs, can't read that, Les Jawfall, are Swedish made in Sweden. See that? Made in Sweden, right. So hopefully I can do this without the weather putting me off, and should be fairly straightforward, but you never know. I've got my Honda Civic Haynes manual, the old one, ready just in case, although it doesn't really tell me much on this particular job, but I should go for it. Errors and all, if you see errors, you know, that's just a genuine part of fixing your car, I guess, on your own. Right, make sure your car's all jacked up properly. I'm on the slope again, and I've made some precautions: brakes, tyres, extra jack, extra bracket, and brick at the front. Right, so a job like this, make sure this gets a good dousing a couple of times probably. Right, so suitably oiled. So now we know what we've got to do is crack open this nut. Might need a tap to tap it out. This nut connects to this bar here. I will probably need to put a jack, make sure I've got a jack that can go under to stop it from springing downwards, I guess, once this is cracked open, this bar is taken off, because that'd be the way to take it out. Once this drops, this can drop out. It's just a dropout kind of thing, I think. Right, so on this Honda Civic 2.2 2007, see these ABS clips? They're clipped, you know, further here with a plastic kind of fastener. I've just unclipped it from here, well, pulled it out, and from here. What I should do really is to unbuckle it, unfasten it from the where it actually fits into the socket, but I do really despise any kind of plugs and sockets, because I really hate taking them off. They always snap off something. So this should be disconnected, because in a minute when the bolt is removed from here and on the other side, this is and this gets taken away from this side and that side, this is going to drop, and this weight of this is really heavy. It's going to be taken by the jack. So this is the rear axle. Anything holding it up are the struts, and they're just bolted down. That's the only thing holding it up. Alright, okay, so if you've got the patience, and I'm looking now, it doesn't, yeah, I can see actually it's not, I should really do it properly and just unbuckle it. You see it there? It's just pressing up. I think it could be a pressing up and then it pulls out. So as these things go, that was quite easy. I just pushed it in with a click and a little wiggle, and out it came. So now hopefully I'll release that from its the fastener there. It should be free to move. So that one there holds, I'm not going to pull under it, hopefully you can see it. It just holds the cable in, see that? Wiggle it with a little screwdriver, push it in, and it just pops out the whole thing. Right, so for cars also fitted with the, I can't remember what we call them, xenon lights or something like that. That bar there, you get that on the front left and front rear left axles as well. That controls the leveler, so you know what I mean when you get those expensive lights and you go up and down, they'll just level themselves by themselves. That's what that is. I don't think this has got it, but I'll have to disconnect it. I think I can't really see, but I think there's a nut on this side. I think it's the number 8. I just greased it up, and the fastener for this left side slightly different. So also when you uncouple these, I just usually spray some contact spray on it, just to give it that extra conductivity between the contacts. Alright, so I don't know, this might end in a disaster. I might have to cut this or something, because it won't be good if it was lowered and it would just go boink, snap, big horrible noise. Alright, let's try it. Bit of an awkward one. So number 10, not much room, got a 1/4 inch ratchet, just about doing it, not 100% sure if it's going to be okay. You can see the function of it anyway. It's a bit odd, these things. Probably use computer technology these days rather than so physical. Anyway, I'll take that off. Probably due to all the anti-rust paint on it, it's not coming up nicely for me, so just going to whip out the impact gun. Don't know, it's a bit risky with things like this that are so rusty. Obviously I want to anti-clockwise it. 14 this is. Moved it a little bit, I think. Not sure. A little bit. Expanded the rest of it. Tiny bit of movement, I think. So a tiny bit. See if I can span it the rest. So 14, ring spanner. Doesn't fit that well. That socket fits the best. Don't want to come. I'm going to try and round it out if it doesn't fit too well. This fits well, this socket fits really well. 54 newton meters to tighten up, by the way. 54 newton meters, if I forget. Yeah, it is coming out. But it'll be under tension, remember. So that is kind of loosened up. Not liking it at all. So I need to push up a little bit, take the strain off. That might come out a bit better. So that is just push up a little bit, and this spins too much, it'll just come flying out, which is not what I want. A little bit at a time. Just a little bit at a time. Try more WD-40. The shock absorbers could do with changing. Right, so that ain't gonna work because I'll need something like my low profile jack, because eventually I've lifted up somewhat. Eventually when that pin comes out I'll have to lower it right down and take the spring out. Just marking the top of each side of the springs with white paint so I know where's the outside for each spring. Like so. Reason being, it's quite easy to be upside down, I reckon. because these were fitted in the factory. So it's still coming out, you know, with old bolts and bits and pieces. You worry that it's going to snap off. I recommend probably now changing a strut at the same time, really. Anyway, now a bit of trial and error. If you hardly raise it at all, it's very hard to take off. If you raise it too much, it's very hard to turn the bolt, which means it's the wrong place. So I think it's about 6 inches I raised it. Takes some of the strain off the spring, and that would be probably the sweet spot. So I would recommend normal, if it isn't, these springs aren't broken off. Oh, now it's really easy, I can do it with one hand. So again, about 6 or 7 inches pumped up. No, this is much better now. So I might just put a mark on the strut. Because I found the sweet spot. Just put a mark on the strut. See where I've just put a little bit of white paint just here. That is a sweet spot now, because there is a risk obviously of the bolt snapping. Recommend going to Honda and getting a new bolt for you before you do this. Changing the strut as well, I should have done that. Strut and spring at the same time, and a new bolt. So I'm only doing this because I load this car with a lot of things like fishing gear and 3 people sitting in it. So I know sooner or later those rusty springs are going to snap. So it's a kind of a risk versus advantage scenario there for me. But if you ordinarily, unless it snaps, I wouldn't bother changing it. I can do that with one hand now. That is exactly what I want. That lower arm, the strut arm should just swing out now once this bolt's taken out. So what do I mean by that? Anything you do is risk. Look how rusty that is. That could have just completely snapped off or something, right? I load the car with a lot of fishing gear, and I go up and down with these steep hills. One of them springs as they go. My greatest fear usually, spring goes, snaps, and if it snaps, usually the rest of the spring will take the weight of the car. But my greatest fear, if it snaps and then there's your tyre, that's my greatest fear. I can do my hand now, which is great. Now, so if I was to lower out the jack now, that spring will come charging out, so I've got to be very careful. So as I take this bolt out, I will clean it, WD-40 it, copper wire it. Alright, copper greased, cleaned up, and it's okay. So that is loose. It should be loose. That should be able to pop out of its housing. So it's still going with it. I think it will stay where it was. Maybe it will need prizing or something for it to come out. So now, if I drop it under control. Right, it does come out now. A bit more. That stayed where it is. Now that's almost dropped completely. It has dropped completely. It would be wise just to do one at a time. Most definitely, don't let both of them hang. One at a time. So now, in theory, if I lower, remember I've got, oh I haven't even got that. Oh no, I've got it on the other side. In theory, this spring should up. It should do. I wonder if the other side's got to be lowered as well. That's as low as it'll go. Interesting. So I think the springs may come out and then backwards. Forwards towards the front of the car. So that is still under a lot of tension. So I've noticed I can push on this and it comes down. Just using my body weight. It's kind of springy. Okay. It's going to be something like this. Right, so it's important not to let this completely hang, because these steel hydraulic fluid pipes might crack and burst or whatever. So make sure you maintain a bit of push up on the jack. So I've just gone for the, you can push it down, it's just going to strain these, so don't do it. So I've jacked it up a little bit, put these, just finger tighten these things on, the spring clamps. Now I think if I was to wind it up, it would, the spring would compress even more so, but I just wonder if I drop it now, it might just give me that. Okay, alright. So I've got it in place where I want it. I'm going to wind up the spring and then take it off that way, just like I do for the front of the car. Alright. Okay. Right, so finger tightened it, jacked it up a bit more. So now if I release, should be hardly any tension pushing down. I have to do it quite a bit more. Maybe I should put this windy bit on the underside. It'll be easier. Starting to touch down there. Starting to touch the body or the axle. So I'm using the jack and pumping it up. And then tightening by hand these. There's a lot of jiggling around, it doesn't all quite fit. I got it out using spring clamps. And now hopefully, don't forget you got to Tipex these bits as well. So you know which bit is front, and that Tipex mark will mark up with that Tipex mark, etc. So let's see if I can, we jiggle this out. Meant to come forward, I think. Like that. Right, okay. So, first rung, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2 and 5. This side. 1, 2, 3, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. So I'm going to write that down so I know where to clamp it. Right, so the bottom rubber bung thing doesn't really move. And you can see just on the right side of that rubber bung spring was sitting there. The top one there's no which way round is what. So it did do this in case you're doing it yourself. So this is the kind of, and this was more like that, and the spring sits against a little stopper in there. See it? Little stopper. Right. So now we've got to work out which is the top of the spring and the bottom of the spring. Right. So. that's the bottom then. So if you flip it upside down, could that be the bottom? And that be the top? Very difficult to tell. It just appears. I'll have to undo it and then see from there. That's probably the best way, because it's compressed you can't really tell. Alright, it took a lot of jiggling, reshifting all the spring clamps, make sure everything's seated, sits at the bottom properly, sits at the top properly, and you need like an open spanner now. Well, I will anyway, to undo them. And it makes perfect sense to alter the jack until that's lined up at the bottom. I'm going to insert the pin before I undo the screws on the spring clamp. It would make perfect logical sense to do that. Okay, so after a lot of jigging around, adjusting, readjusting, and I'll put the bolt back in first before I release all the pressure. 54 newton meters on these torque wrenches. So I kind of flushed it up. Always hold it where the knoll is. Don't hold it anywhere else, otherwise it'll give you a false reading. I think there we go. That's it. 54. That'll do. Click once. Once you've used a torque wrench. I mean, I know I'm going to do the other side, but release all the pressure of the spring. Alright, so that's it really. Done one side. Don't forget to put all the harnesses back on, plug the plug back in. Make sure the wires are not catching as it's going up and down. Right, with the left spring it's a little bit easier. In a way it's a bit harder. Can't put the clamps, there's no room to put the clamps, so it's just a case of pushing it down. As you push it down, you spin the thing anti-clockwise and it'll uncouple it from the rubber housing below, and it comes out backwards. So there it is. It fits in there, so you've got to spin it anti-clockwise and it'll uncouple it from there. This thing doesn't move. It's not going to hang like that as well. So I'll just mark up the new spring front of it down, and that's it really. So thanks for watching. Just got to put all these back, these things back, and that's one side done. You got to do the other side. Quite a tough job really. Not half as easy as a Vauxhall Corsa. That was much easier. Anyway, thanks for watching.